Happy holidays. Hello, humans. I hope you've all been very nice to each other. Let's have this session on things that you definitely want to stay away from saying during an argument or disagreement. It is time to therapy. So we have these words that I like to call in therapy indefinite words. And these are some trigger words that you definitely want to stay away from when you are arguing or disagreeing or in a heated response with somebody that you actually care about and you want to have a productive conversation with. So indefinite terms are things that really have no leeway. These words have no space in between. They are always and factual, and that's what makes them dangerous. What are these terms? The first one is going to be always. For example, you always leave the door open. You always take the remote. You always have an odor. These are things that are going to cause a person in response to have a defensive response because now they feel like they need to defend their position on why that is not always the case. As you can see, this indefinite word leaves no space in between. And that's what makes it dangerous because now our conversation has shifted from whatever the actual issue was to now that person feeling like they need to defend their position, or better, they need to defend what is an insult in some cases. Another one that you definitely want to be mindful of when you're speaking with your partner, family member, or friend, or whoever it is you actually care about is never. You never listen. That is huge, right? That is such a tricky word. You never listen. You never call. You never take out the trash. You never seem to care, right? That is definitely going to cause that response of
Never. What do you mean never? I never da da da. Also, I never da da da. I never da da da.
it takes you down a path of defensive, argumentative responses, and that's never going to be truly productive. Another big one is every time. Every time I see you, you're in bed. Every time I call you, you're at home. Every time I call you, you're not at home. Every time I call you, you say you're working. Every time is one of those words that, again, is one of those indefinite terms that is going to cause a defensive response. Every time you call me, for real? Really? Every time? It automatically gives that person the need to prove you wrong. And now, again, you're totally distracted from what the actual conversation, the fundamental value of what the conversation was supposed to be. Because now it's a fight. Now we have to tussle. We have a tussle of words. And I can't even hear you now. Because now I'm offended, right? As that person, now I'm offended. I don't really want to hear what you have to say because you are already starting off this conversation unfairly. You are already starting off this conversation, or you're now in conversation where you're saying things that I know aren't true because there's no way I always do X, Y, and Z, right? Even if there is, it's going to cause that person to now have to think in their mind how they can disprove what you said. So they're no longer listening to you. They're in their mind now trying to figure out a time when they did the opposite of what you said they always, never, or every time do. Think about that. Now, the next one I'm going to say, it is not necessarily an indefinite word, but it is definitely a word that causes a passionate response, which is going to be, I hate. I hate when you talk to me like that. I hate when you breathe like that. I hate when you wear that. I hate that you smell like that. It could be a lot of ways that can go, but as you can see, it is definitely going to cause a reaction, right? Whether it is a very, outlandish over response, or it is a very introverted, building secret resentment towards you response. It is going to cause a response. The next one you're going to really want to be careful with, and this is one that is a beautiful, beautiful term, a beautiful word for deflecting, which is but. But you did it yesterday. But you said that 2 days ago. I know I did it, but you do it too. But you played a victim too. But you hit that. But. That is a deflecting term. Why? Because I'm telling you something right, that I have a problem with, and you follow up and say, okay, but 2 days ago you did the same thing. Well, did you bring it up 2 days ago? And if you did, why are you bringing it up now? I'm telling you how I feel. Now, there may be validity in your but. I'm not saying there's not. But what you want to do is, in order to have a healthy communication and a healthy relationship and a healthy interaction, you want to first acknowledge what that person is saying. You want to understand what they're saying. You want to take any accountability there if it's necessary. Allow that to simmer, right? Allow that conversation to conclude naturally and genuinely. And then after some time, when you feel like it's appropriate, you can follow that up, right? Give it like a day, a few hours, whatever it is, and say something along the lines of,
Hey, when we had that argument earlier, I noticed that you brought up some things, and I really want to discuss that with you because in the past, I've seen you kind of display some of those behaviors that you said you don't like that I do, and I really feel like that's something that I want to talk to you about, right?
that's another way to approach that, but in a much more uh, pleasant, productive way, right? You don't want to do it in the heat of the moment because then it just seems disingenuous. So the next part of what I want to focus on is replacing these words, right? I can't just give you what not to say and not give you something about what you could say or how you could replace them. So instead of the always, never, every time, anytime, what we could be saying is sometimes, or at times, at times, we could replace the I hate you with I feel very passionately that you don't ... right? I feel very passionately that you don't listen to me at times when I really need you to do it. We could add things like, to me, it feels like ... In the future, I really hope that we is such a beautiful, collaborative, peaceful word because it allows both of us to be in a space where we have things we can all work on, right? It is a beautifully imperfect word. It says, hey, even if in your heart you know that it's them and not you, what it says is, hey, we've all made mistakes. I think we could both work on some things. I think we could both work on some things. And this is what I hope that we can do in the future. You can say things like, going forward, I hope that we can learn to communicate better, right? Instead of saying, you need to work on your communication style. Going forward, I feel like we could communicate better. In the future, I really hope that we can learn how to have more. In the future, I hope that we can learn how to have more intellectual conversations, more passionate conversations, whatever it is that you feel like you need. But those are good feelers. Those are really good words that just kind of replace those indefinite words and that deflecting word or those deflecting type of words that just cause such a negative communication, a negative interaction. And they'll kind of help you, ease that over to actually getting to the point. So that was some of the things I want to touch on. Obviously, there's a lot more indefinite words. Those are things you want to be mindful of. It will definitely help you have better communications when there seems to be a disagreement afoot. Okay? If you have questions, leave them in the comment section and be good humans. Don't let anybody push you over. Don't let anybody take advantage of you. Be a good human. Be patient. Be peaceful. Have a great holiday.